Good afternoon and welcome to the 1:30 p.m. news on Rakyat Times TV. I am Jonathan Lim. Today with us in the studio we have Member of Parliament of Serdang, Dr Ong Kian Ming, and he is here with us in the studio to speak about a few key issues that have popped up recently, and I believe we are going to speak about Ismail Sabri's recent comment.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Yeah, I just like to respond firstly to what Agriculture Minister Ismail Sabri said. I think people already know about the context of his statement. I just want to say that firstly, he is very irresponsible in making those remarks because number one, we all know that fuel prices is just a small portion of the overall expense of any business. So just because fuel prices have decreased by 10%, 20%, doesn't mean that prices of goods in general has to drop. Secondly, if he really wants to target businesses which should drop their prices, it should be those businesses where fuel prices is a very important component of their overall expenses. So for example, if you are airline like Malaysian Airlines, for example, have they decreased their prices? We know that Air Asia has, because Air Asia has abolished their fuel surcharges. Tenaga, for example, TNB, they have reaped in huge profits in the first quarter because the price of fuel as well as the price of coal has decreased. So why not target these companies and ask them to drop their prices rather than just wanting to target and very unfairly traders of a certain race?
So in other words, he completely missed the point in trying to make a point about...
I think not only did he completely miss the point, but I think he was trying to make a point for political purposes so that he can gain support within his own party in UMNO rather than really being sincere in wanting to decrease the cost of living for Malaysians.
And he seemed to have gotten quite a lot of support from the UMNO quarter, right?
I think he got the response that he wanted to get.
There were like placards and everything.
Exactly, which is a very sad indication that basically people, not just members, but leaders within UMNO are not coming out to condemn what he said. But many of them are actually coming out to support what he said, which I think for most reasonable thinking Malaysians is very irresponsible and unreasonable.
Okay. And local elections, what are your thoughts on it?
Local elections has also been an issue that has been in the news of late. Of course, past President Datuk Seri Hadi Awang have come out to state its reasons why we shouldn't have local elections, despite the fact that DAP is pushing quite strongly for it in Penang as well as in Selangor. And I think many people don't realize that in the local councils in Malaysia right now, in the urban areas, a majority of them actually have a majority or plurality of Malay residents now. It wasn't like before in 1969. Even in KL, the largest population in KL are actually the Malays. So Datuk Seri Hadi Awang's idea that somehow the Chinese would dominate local elections, I think it's something, it's thinking that is rooted in the past. And it's not grounded in present.
Do you think that's the main obstacle as to why it is not implemented right now, the fear of having the Chinese?
No, I think that the main obstacle behind the implementation of local elections is not what Datuk Seri Hadi Awang said, but rather the inability or the unwillingness of the BN federal government to restore the third vote back to the people. Okay. That's the main issue.
In terms of challenges, what do you foresee to be the biggest challenge if local elections are implemented?
I think it's a process whereby the people needs to be educated and they need to get used to electing their local councillors and knowing what to ask from their local councillors. Because right now, many people think that potholes and rubbish is supposed to be taken care of by the Member of Parliament like myself or by the state representative. I think that's not really what we were elected to do. So by having local councils, that would be part of the democratization and education process in Malaysia, and it's an important.
Do you think there will be any ways to cheat the system?
Well, in any elections, even at the national or at the state level, if there is the intention of or desire of wanting to cheat, people can cheat, whether it's at the local level, state or national level.
You mentioned an example earlier regarding the incinerator project that is being planned in Kepong. How do you think that ties in with this issue?
Yeah, I think one of the people who came out to support Datuk Seri Hadi Awang's position is the Minister for Housing and Local Government, Datuk Seri Abdul Rahman Dahlan. his views are important because he's in charge of the local government. And one of the things he said was that if we have local elections, then the tax rate or the assessment rate will increase for residents because the federal government may have to cut back on its allocation, or the state government may have to cut back on its allocation to the local councils. I think that view is not right, because even if we look at what's happening in KL now, assessments have been raised despite the fact that there are no local elections. And I suspect that assessments will be raised even further to fund this 1,000 ton mega incinerator in Kepong, where local residents have no say on whether they want it to be built or not. So I think he needs to be corrected on these facts.
A group have recently raised a few concerns regarding the incinerator project.
Yes.
Personal standpoint, what do you think? Do you think it should go ahead?
Oh, I definitely object to the building of this incinerator. Number one, because of cost, because it will not just affect the people in Kepong, but all people who live in Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur would have to fund this incinerator, the cost of this incinerator, through the assessment rates. Secondly, there's already a sanitary landfill that's very well run in Bukit Daga in Hulu Selangor. And that capacity, of that particular landfill is expected to last at least 50 years. So why is there a need to go on another mega project which will not bring any benefits to the local population?
True. Okay. One last question regarding the delineation process in Sarawak. Do you think it is already a lost cause in fighting the EC, the redrawing of the lines?
Firstly, it's good that you bring it up, because today is actually the last day for public objection, the 4th of February, because the maps were displayed on the 5th of January. I do not think it's a lost cause. I do think that the process is very unfair. The fact that 11 state seats were added but no parliamentary seats were added because the SPR did not want to go through parliament to get the 2/3 majority to amend the constitution.
Sorry, for the layman, how would this, can you give me a simple translation as to what this would mean?
Basically, it means what has resulted is in Sarawak, you have a seat which has 30,000 voters, let's say.
Okay.
And then just next to it, also in an urban area, we have a seat with less than 20,000 voters. So it is very unfair. It's hard for the normal, regular person to justify why this is the case. But nonetheless, it is important to make our objections known to the Elections Commission and to the larger public, and we'll do whatever we can, including taking out legal challenges to make sure that this process is done in a transparent and fair manner.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ong, for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So that was the 1:30 p.m. news on Rakyat Times TV. We will see you again tomorrow.